All right, let's jump right in. Welcome to This Explainer, where today we are going to unpack one of the absolute most critical, high-stakes procedures you will ever encounter in civil litigation. We're talking about Rule 40 of the Rules of Court. If you're a litigator or you're grinding through law school to become one, consider this your essential playbook. This right here is your survival guide for exactly what happens when you fought a brutal battle in the first-level courts and, well, you lost. Picture this scenario for a second. You've just received a judgment from the Municipal Trial Court, the MTC, and it is definitely not the news you or your client wanted to hear. The ruling completely went against you. So what do you do now? It's that awful sinking feeling in your stomach, right? But it's a situation literally every litigator will face at some point. Panic? Not an option. The answer? Your exact step-by-step roadmap for your next move is laid out clear as day in Rule 40. This rule is your one and only ticket to taking the case up to the next level. Here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the Rule 40 bridge, then we'll tackle the 15-day ticking clock. After that, we're going to walk through exactly how to perfect your appeal, gear up for the mandatory RTC memorandum, and finally, we'll unravel the jurisdiction plot twist. Section 1, the Rule 40 bridge, your only path to the RTC. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty mechanics, we really need to ground ourselves philosophically with this foundational legal principle. An appeal is not a natural right, but purely a statutory privilege. Think about the weight of that for a second. The law absolutely does not owe you a second chance just because you're unhappy with the MTC's decision. The right to appeal is a privilege granted by statute, which means you have to earn it by following the rules to the letter. And because it's a privilege, let me tell you, the courts are notoriously unforgiving if you miss even a single step. Let's quickly nail down the basic logistics. Rule 40 is literally the exclusive bridge connecting those first-level courts, so your MTCs, your metropolitan trial courts, your municipal circuit trial courts, directly up to the regional trial court, the RTC, that has geographic jurisdiction over them. Now, when you cross this bridge, the title of your case, it stays exactly the same. But your labels, they shift. If you're the one filing the appeal, congratulations, you're now the appellant. The winning party sitting on the other side, they become the appellee. Super simple, but getting the terminology right is step 1 of the journey. Section 2, the 15-day ticking clock. Unforgiving and non-negotiable. 15. I want you to burn this number into your memory right now. You have exactly 15 days to file your notice of appeal. That clock starts ticking the very millisecond you or your counsel actually receive the notice of judgment or final order from the MTC. Now, if you filed a timely motion for reconsideration or a motion for a new trial, you get 15 days from the notice denying that specific motion. Every single second counts here, guys. Time is absolutely not your friend on this one. Notice the immense weight of the phrase regulamentary period. This is not a suggestion. It's not a soft deadline you can casually ask to push back. It is jurisdictional. And why is our legal system so incredibly rigid about this? Because the law highly values finality. Think about it. If cases could just be appealed whenever someone felt like it, litigation would quite literally never end. So if you miss this 15-day window, the MTC's judgment becomes final and executory. Boom, your right to appeal is utterly destroyed. And keep in mind, especially under the 2019 amendments to the Rules of Court, extensions for ordinary appeals are virtually non-existent. Section 3, perfecting your appeal, the twin pillars of Rule 40. Okay, so to actually trigger this appeal and make it legally effective, you must perfect it. And perfection relies on 2 absolute mandatory steps that have to happen within that tight 15-day window. Step 1, you file your notice of appeal with the exact same MTC that rendered the judgment. You have to make sure to clearly state the material dates just to prove you're on time and serve a copy to the adverse party. Step 2, you have to pay the appellate docket and other lawful fees in full to the MTC clerk. Once you knock out those 2 things on time, your appeal is officially perfected. At that exact moment, the MTC officially loses jurisdiction over the case. Then we move to step 3, where the MTC clerk has 15 days to pack up and transmit the entire original record over to the RTC. But hey, before we pop champagne for crossing the bridge, we really have to look at the classic, completely heartbreaking mistakes that kill appeals before they even see the inside of an RTC courtroom. Missing that 15-day deadline, that is the ultimate appeal killer for sure. Right behind it is failing to pay the docket fees in full on time. Listen, paying late is just as fatal as not paying at all in the eyes of the court. And then you've got those sneaky procedural traps, like forgetting to clearly state the material dates in your notice to prove your timeliness, or totally forgetting to serve a copy to the appellee. Literally, any of these errors can lead to an outright dismissal. You've got to be meticulous here. Section 4, the mandatory RTC memorandum, the next battleground. All right, so the RTC actually receives the transmitted records. What happens next? Well, a brand new timeline immediately kicks in. The RTC clerk is going to notify all the parties that the records have safely arrived. Let's call that day 0. From the moment you get that notice, the appellant has exactly 15 days, there's that number again, to submit their memorandum. This document is pretty much everything. It's a simplified brief where you lay out exactly what factual or legal errors you believe the MTC made. Once that is filed, the appellee gets 15 days of their own to fire back with a reply memorandum. After that, the case is submitted for decision. And here's a crucial detail. The RTC usually decides these appeals purely based on these written memos, without holding a formal hearing, which makes them incredibly important. And I need to put up a massive flashing warning sign right here. Under Section 7B of Rule 40, failing to file the appellant's memorandum is fatal. Period. If you did all the hard work to perfect the appeal, you paid the fees, you got the records transferred, but then you somehow forget to file this written argument within the 15 days, the RTC is fully empowered to dismiss your appeal outright. You are practically handing them the dismissal on a silver platter. It is an absolute must. Section 5, the jurisdiction plot twist. Unpacking Section 8. Now, what if the rules decide to throw you a massive curveball? Imagine you find out the MTC never actually had jurisdiction over your case in the first place. Section 8 breaks this down into 2 very distinct, very clever scenarios. Let's look at the first one. Imagine the MTC looked at a case, declared, "We don't have jurisdiction," and dismissed it without ever holding a trial. If the RTC reviews this on appeal and decides, actually, the MTC was wrong, they did have jurisdiction, the RTC will remand, or basically send back, the case for the MTC to actually hold the trial. But if the MTC was actually right about lacking jurisdiction, but the RTC realizes that it itself does have jurisdiction, the RTC won't dismiss it. It will just take over and try the case. Now, consider the second scenario. What if the MTC went ahead and held a full-blown trial, but oops, it turns out they lacked jurisdiction the whole time? In this situation, the RTC doesn't throw all that hard work in the garbage. Instead, it just assumes jurisdiction and decides the case on the merits based on what's already been done. The brilliant logic driving this whole plot twist is a foundational concept called judicial economy. It's incredibly smart, honestly. The rules are specifically designed to prevent cases from endlessly bouncing back and forth between the first and second level courts over jurisdictional technicalities. By empowering the regional trial court to simply step in, take the wheel, and get the job done, the judicial system saves literally everyone, the courts, the lawyers, and most importantly, the clients, an immense amount of time, money, and resources. And that brings us to our summary, mastering the 4 R's. If you really want to successfully cross the Rule 40 bridge without falling off, just remember this simple mnemonic, the 4 R's. First, the right court. You've got to direct your appeal to the specific RTC that holds territorial jurisdiction over the MTC. Second, the right time. You absolutely must file your notice within that unforgiving 15-day reglementary period. Third, the right fees. Your appellate docket fees must be paid in full and strictly on time. And fourth, the right memo. Once you've made it to the RTC, the appellant has got to file their memorandum within 15 days of notice or face an immediate, crushing dismissal. Master these 4 R's, and I promise you, your appeal survives. So, look at that. You now know exactly how to appeal from the MTC to the RTC. You know the rules, the strict deadlines, and the procedural traps to avoid. But I really want to leave you with this provocative thought. Just because you can appeal isn't always your best strategic move. Think about it. Sometimes when you truly understand the steep climb, the strict rules, and the heavy costs involved in Rule 40, it might make you look at settlement or alternative dispute resolution in a completely new light. Knowing the mechanics isn't just about figuring out how to fight the next battle, it's about evaluating whether the battle is truly worth fighting in the first place. Keep that in mind for your next big case. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep learning.